Have you ever looked at your reflection and wondered why, in a modern world full of stress and judgment, some women still keep the spark in their eyes, the peace in their hearts, and the power in every move they make? At the same time, many others live in constant doubt, trapped in a cage of trying to please everyone and always looking for joy outside of themselves. The solution does not live in a basic self-care habit, an upbeat book, or a class on building self-worth. The solution lives deep inside the mind, in what Jung called the undiscovered self, where the modern woman has long ago lost the key. Carl Jung, the famous 20th century thinker, believed that a woman's path to finding herself is not about fighting back, but an awakening where she does not throw away her kindness or her giving nature, but learns to share them on purpose. So, what is the true secret of a joyful and sure woman? In today's video, we will start a trip to find the key to that mystery. And if you are a woman tired of playing parts, wanting to breathe as your real self, this trip is meant for you. At the end of the road lies a glowing version of you that you might never have been allowed to be until this moment. First, the secret is not found outside. The secret is not found outside, but inside. Today's world pushes women to look at the outer world and the goal of having everything. A great career, a perfect body, flawless relationships, and a life approved by others. But here is the strange part. The more women reach these goals, the emptier they often feel. They smile, but their smiles are tired. They win, yet they do not find quiet. As Carl Jung once stated, those who look outside dream, but those who look inside wake up. From a small age, many women are told to be nice, to be thoughtful, and to make others happy. They learn to smile when they do not want to agree when their heart says no, and to put their own feelings at the end of the line because that is what a good woman does. Over time, they lose their own voice, then start to think they never had a clear voice to lose at all. Jung called these polite behaviors the mask, or the persona. It is not your real self, but the face you build to be loved and to be accepted. But when a woman lives too long behind her mask, she forgets who she truly is. She can no longer tell the difference between her real needs and the roles that have become stuck in her mind. Think of the successful woman with a high job, a family, and the praise of her friends. Yet every night she cries in private, not knowing why she feels so lonely in her own life. Or think of the mother who takes care of everyone else perfectly, but cannot remember the last time she felt glad or looked after herself. These are obvious signs that you have lived too long in the outer world and ignored the world inside. And that inner world, according to Jung, is not a calm place. It is a wild forest, a huge ocean filled with the parts of yourself you have forgotten, pushed away, or even hated. It is where the shadow lives, the dark side. In the shadow lies everything you do not want to face: anger, jealousy, pain, the wish to be free, to say no, and to live purely. It is the part of you that you showed as a child but were told was greedy, bad, or not worthy of love. You pushed it down. You became a woman who agrees with everything. But in doing so, you also put out the fire inside. Jung did not tell us to kill the shadow. He told us to bring it into our lives because it is part of your whole self, the hidden yet lively source of life energy. A woman who does not know her shadow will always struggle with the feeling of not knowing who she is or feeling empty, even when she has everything. But when she is brave enough to face it, she starts to take back the power that was taken from her. For instance, a woman feels annoyed every time someone does better than her at work, but does not dare admit her jealousy because she fears being seen as small. She ignores her feelings, tries to act better than that, and then hurts herself on the inside. But if she faces her shadow, admitting her wish for praise and to rise up, she will see there is nothing wrong with that feeling. It is a voice telling her to grow, a push to step out of her safe space. Only when that feeling is accepted does it stop causing trouble in the dark. Jung wrote that until you make the hidden parts of your mind clear, they will rule your life and you will call it luck. How many women ask themselves why they always end up in relationships that cause pain? Why am I always used by others? Why can't I say no without feeling bad? These questions do not come from being weak, but from hidden loops running in the dark. If there is a question that keeps coming back inside you, try writing it down in the comments below. Perhaps just one line of sharing could be the first step towards seeing yourself more clearly. And that is when the inner trip begins, not through 10 minutes of morning quiet time hoping for peace, not through reading a self-help book expecting a huge change, but through the bravery to face yourself without being mean to yourself. This is a trip of looking in the mirror without any makeup. It is when you hear the voice in your head saying that you are tired, that you are scared, and that you want more than this. And for the first time in your life, you do not quiet those wishes. The inner trip has no set plan. It happens in the times you stop, you hurt, and you have doubts. It happens when you are strong enough to be by yourself, quiet enough to hear the voice of your heart. The voice that once spoke when you were a child, but was made quiet by what people wanted and by old hurts. And then one day, you will find yourself doing something new, not for others, but for yourself. You say no without giving a reason. You walk in the other direction even when everyone says you are wrong. You face a fear that once made you shake and you do not run away. That is not acting out. That is waking up. Happy women are not happy because they have perfect lives. They are happy because they live true to who they are, even if it means breaking the rules others set for them. Real confidence does not come from school titles, a perfect shape, or people looking at you. It comes from the deep belief that I am myself, no more, no less, and that is plenty. The secret lives there, not outside, but in the most honest talk you will ever have with yourself. When a woman looks inside, she no longer waits for someone to rescue her. She becomes her own leader. And from that point on, the world no longer has the power to say who she is. Second, connecting again with the feminine energy inside. Connecting again with the feminine energy inside. When a woman starts her trip of finding herself, facing her inner world, her dark side, her pains, and the many layers of masks she has used for a long time, a major moment happens. She does not just drop what is no longer her, but starts to see the holy parts that were hidden for years. And in the deep parts of that hidden mind, she meets a strong inner force, the goddess within. This is not the fake, pretty, or perfect image shown in ads. The goddess within is an old, wild, natural, and knowing life force. It is the holy part that Jung called a pattern, a basic image living in the shared mind of all people across time and cultures. Jung believed that inside every woman lives a true spirit of making things, wisdom, and a link to nature and the deep world. Yet, the world has quieted this spirit by forcing women into roles of helping others or just being sweet. Think of a little girl, maybe you as a child, who loved climbing trees, yelling, drawing on walls, and asking a million questions. As she grew, that girl was corrected. Girls do not act like that. Is that how a girl talks? No one will love you if you are so headstrong. And so the goddess in her, the voice of gut feelings, interest, art, and being her own person, was locked away, called too much, wrong, or in need of fixing. As adults, women carry a hole inside they cannot explain. They hunt for beauty, perfection, and approval. But behind those tired eyes and the red lipstick put on each morning lives a quiet call. There is something I have forgotten. That is the whisper of the goddess within. No one is born separated from their feminine spirit. It is built into the soul like a light showing the way, a source of making, knowing, kindness, and being open. But over time, this power is held down by the hard needs of the world and the roles women must play. Under this weight, the feminine power does not go away, it hides, making room for protective walls built from hurts that never healed. Carl Jung said this was a break from the deep self, where the most vital part of your soul is shut away waiting to wake up. Being feminine is a state of the soul. Jung called it the anima, the deep and kind inner power tied to feelings, gut instinct, and the hidden mind. But for many women, this power is covered in fear. When the inner child is hurt, this feminine spirit is the first thing to be locked away. A girl yelled at for crying too much, teased for being soft, or laughed at for having big dreams grows up learning to hold back her feelings, hide her soft side, and feel safe only when she is tough, logical, and in control. But what is the price? A break from the very source of her creativity, from the natural movement of her soul. Feminine power is not about how you look or your gender. It is a holy force that lives in everyone. It is the part of your soul that takes in love, moves with life instead of pushing it, and whispers for you to slow down because you are safe. It is joy, feelings, being open, and the beauty of just being alive. But for many women, this power is pushed down early on. You might have been told that feelings are messy, being soft is being weak, or that what you want makes you too much. Maybe you grew up in a world that cheered for winning and logic while shaming gut feelings and being sensitive. Because of this, the inner child who once danced without care, dreamed big, and cried without being ashamed, learned to get small, to hide her spirit, trading joy for a show and using strength like a shield, not knowing it was slowly burying her truth. Jung taught that the image of the inner child is the root of our freedom, our art, and our emotional life. So if you find it hard to relax, to feel good without feeling bad about it, or to show your feminine side without fear, you are not lost. You are stuck. You have been surviving in a world that told you to leave yourself behind. Now is the time to go back to heal that inner child and let her lead you back to the woman you were always meant to be. Imagine a small stream moving through a quiet valley. At first, it is cool and smooth, turning around rocks and trees. It flows by nature, just being itself. But one day, it hits a huge rock. Without knowing why the rock is there, the stream knows it must change to stay alive. So it learns to move through cracks and slide through tight gaps to get by. It starts to believe that moving too strongly will only hit more walls. The feminine power inside a woman is like that stream, sometimes soft, sometimes strong, but always a natural force that is not controlled. Yet she has built too many rules and too many old beliefs that say I am only worth something when I make others glad. Like the stream blocked by a rock, the deepest part of her no longer sees the light. To bring back that natural flow, a woman must feel safe in her body, heart, and feelings by linking again with her inner child. An inner child who never felt love without conditions cannot feel safe opening up. So instead of taking in love, adult women become wary, controlling, and try to explain everything with logic. They build walls to protect themselves, not seeing that these are also jails that trap their deepest feminine spirit. Feminine power does not wake up through hard work. It is moved through letting go, being present, and trusting the natural way life moves. But a woman carrying the fear of being hurt cannot let her guard down. She is always watching, always thinking, and always needing to be sure before she trusts. In those moments, she moves away from her feminine spirit. Not because she lacks it, but because she was told that living by it is risky. Think of the last time you held back your real feelings because you feared what people would think, or chose to stay quiet instead of saying what you needed because you were afraid of being pushed away. That was the moment your feminine power was held down again. The sad part is that you thought you were growing up or being smart when really you were just repeating a survival habit from childhood, when your inner child learned to hide herself to stay safe. Carl Jung did not see the return of feminine power as a simple lesson, but as a deep job for the soul. It is about linking back to your original self through kindness, understanding, and bringing your dark side into the light. It is being brave enough to sit with the parts of you called weak, useless, or too emotional, and saying, "I see you. You have a right to be here, and you are me." When a woman starts to link back with the goddess inside, she also opens up a hidden life force called intuition. You cannot measure it, but we have all felt it. A gut feeling that something is wrong, a sense that I do not belong here, a quiet call to try a new way. Yet over time, women learn to ignore this gut feeling, calling it silly, mindless, or wrong. They learn to ask others for answers instead of themselves. Jung believed this inner knowing is the language of the hidden mind, the bridge between your private thoughts and your true self. A woman who cannot hear her inner knowing is like a boat without a compass. She may look fine, but she does not know where she is going. When a woman starts to wake up the natural flow inside, the flow of the goddess, of her gut feelings and her true self, the first thing she feels is not a sense of relief, but a sense of big change. She is no longer who she used to be, but not yet the person she will become. This is the start of what Jung called individuation, the road to being whole, not by becoming a perfect person, but by going back to the special, one-of-a-kind spirit of herself. Third, the process of finding your true self. The process of finding your true self. Carl Jung never believed that the point of life was to become the best version of yourself, as people today often say. He was not worried about being perfect, nor did he push people to follow a set of rules. For Jung, the real goal of growing was to become whole, not just better. This trip toward being whole is called finding your true self, or more simply, the journey of returning to who you really are. Finding your true self is not about adding something new, but about peeling away everything that does not belong to you. Beliefs you took from others, roles you learned from the outside, and the layers you built just to survive. It is facing your dark side, the parts you pushed away, and holding them as part of your life power. It is bringing into the light of your mind the inner child, the feminine spirit that was locked away, and the memories that seemed small. Finding your true self is not a bright, glowing image, but a trip downward and inward to your roots, facing pains, making peace with what happened before, and learning to live with your whole being. The strong and the weak, the logical and the gut feelings, the dark and the light. Only by joining all these parts can you step out of a broken life where you always try to be someone else and into a life that is truly yours, free and very meaningful. One woman who started this trip said that for 30 years, I lived as if I were wearing a mask. I always acted the way others wanted, always smiled, even when I was hurting inside. But when I started going back to the little girl inside me, to the parts I was once ashamed of, I saw I had never truly lived a single day. From that point, I could not go back. The process of finding your true self is far from easy. There will be times when you feel lost, no longer fitting in the old places, but not yet knowing who you are in the new world. This trip asks for the bravery to step into unknown lands, old memories, forced beliefs, and fears without names. Jung believed we cannot truly grow unless we face the mental weight we carry. The voices in our heads that do not belong to us, but to our mothers, our grandmothers, the world, or rules we just picked up. A woman on the path to herself slowly separates from these, not to hate them, but to see which voice is truly hers and which is just an echo of others. And here is the biggest test: pushback from the world around you. When you change, you force others to look at themselves. Not everyone is ready for that. A woman who starts to say no instead of yes, who sets limits in relationships that were once okay, who stops trying to please everyone, is not being mean. She is not acting out. She has simply stopped playing a part. But this makes others feel uneasy. They ask why you are so cold lately, or if something is wrong with you because you used to be so much nicer. What they are really saying is that I cannot handle you not being someone I can control anymore. One woman shared that from childhood. She was the glue holding her family together, the one who fixed fights and the emotional base for her mother, her siblings, and everyone else. But when she got tired and stopped carrying feelings that were not hers, she started setting limits. She stopped calling every day to be her mother's ear. The result was that she was called selfish, thankless, and cold. But deep down, she knew for the first time she was living as herself, and that, though it hurt, was freedom. Jung called these times a meeting with the self, not to win a fight but to understand. No longer split between a perfect self and a real self, a woman starts to rebuild her whole inner world, her values, beliefs, friends, limits, and even the way she moves through the world. Each day she chooses to live with a plan rather than just reacting. Each choice adds a brick to the base of a new self, not one made by the world, but one she builds from the inside. You may be somewhere on this trip right now. Maybe you have felt mixed up, made choices no one understood, or stood between two worlds, not sure where you fit. If you want, share your story in the comments. Your words might make someone else feel less alone. This is not easy. That is why so few truly start on the road to finding their true self. It asks for time alone, the letting go of roles you know well, and the heart to stand by yourself in a room full of people without losing your link to who you are. But that very time alone is where inner power is born. Jung once said that being lonely does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to share the things that seem important to you. Finding your true self allows you to speak what matters, even if only to yourself. As a woman goes deeper into this trip, she starts to see the world with different eyes. Things that once seemed like they could never change, such as jobs, marriages, or how people see her, may fall apart, and she is not afraid. Not because she does not need them, but because they no longer say who she is. She starts to build a new set of values, one where being true to herself matters, more than being true to a role, where she chooses friends not out of need, but because they do not force her to get small. This freedom is not the messy do whatever I want kind of acting out. It is a deep freedom, like standing in a desert without fear, because at last she knows who she is. From that moment she becomes steady, not because she does not feel pain, but because she no longer runs from it. Finding your true self marks the end of a time of living by rules, what others expect, or common truths. But it is also the start of something beautiful, your real life. Not a copy of your mother's life, not a perfect image, but a life you write page by page through clear choices every day. The true source of power. Fourth, the true source of power. As a woman travels deeper into finding her true self, she starts to find a surprising truth. Real power does not lie in becoming perfect, but in accepting herself fully, both the light and the dark sides. Lasting confidence is not something you put on. It is something you build from the inside, And this can only happen when you dare to live as a whole person without hiding anything. Too many women have been fooled by the image of the perfect woman. It is a made-up rule, a trap wrapped in modern words. The more you work for that goal, the further you drift from yourself. And then one day you see that the perfection you ran after was a jail you built for yourself. Being whole is different. It does not ask that you be something specific. It asks you to be fully there with what is, whether that is being tired, angry, hurt, or having wishes you cannot name. Jung called this process joining things together, the linking of the broken parts of the soul into one solid whole. No more saying things are not there, no more pushing fears under the bed, no more acting like everything is fine. Carl Jung said that being whole is not reached by cutting off a part of yourself, but by joining the opposite parts. You cannot become whole by hating the parts of yourself you do not like. You can only do so by bringing them in. Just as light cannot be there without dark, the more a woman says no to her anger, jealousy, or fear, the more these feelings rule her without her knowing. But when she is brave enough to see them, to talk with them, and to give them a place in her heart, she becomes truly whole from the inside. Being whole also means linking back with the body rather than treating it as something to rule over. Women are told that their bodies must meet certain marks. Be thin, be pretty but not too much, be young, be okay for others. In the work to make their bodies right, they lose their natural link to this home, the place that keeps feelings, memories, and life itself. I see so many women today working out because they hate their own bodies, dieting because they are afraid of how they look next to others, or wearing makeup to be pretty for other people. But have they ever asked, if my body were my best friend, how would I look after it? Would I hurt it like this? If you truly listen inside to the signs of being tired, the real joy of moving, and the way of eating that makes you feel alive, not to be more pretty, but to be more yourself, and you take time to find out what your body truly wants, that is when you start to feel sure in whatever shape you take. Being whole does not push feelings down, but learns to sit with them without being swept away. A strong woman is not one who never cries, but one who is brave enough to cry without feeling weak. There is no need to hide tears, no need to say sorry for feelings. She knows that every wave of feeling is part of the deep ocean inside, and that ocean is her source of power. When a woman starts to live in a whole way, the way she moves through the world changes. She no longer tries to make people like her. She does not need to do anything to be loved because she has already loved herself through total and complete acceptance. And that power, the power of someone who has made peace with herself, is what makes her move people, draw them in, and stay strong. This does not mean she has no faults, fights, or hard times. It means she no longer fears them. She does not fight against herself, and because of this, she is no longer moved by the need to prove herself or the fear of being left. She knows if someone walks away because she lives as her real self, they were never meant to stay. And if someone stays, they are brave enough to love her in her whole state. Being whole also gives her a kind of power that the world cannot make, the skill to hold herself up in her most open and soft moments. No waiting for someone to save her. No hoping something from the outside will fill the hole inside, because she has learned to sit with her pain without judging it and without running. Like a mother sitting next to a crying child, not trying to make it stop, just being there. That being there for herself is a power that cannot be moved. Carl Jung once wrote that only a paradox comes close to understanding the full meaning of life. Life is not a list of simple choices like right or wrong, strong or weak, or beautiful or ugly. It is the existence of all these opposite things at the very same time. A whole woman does not try to pick one over the other. She accepts this mix of opposites, and in doing so, she finds the deepest truth about her own self. Fifth, the power of connection. When a woman steps out of the stiff mold of being perfect and moves into a state of being whole, something unplanned starts to take place. She no longer sees the world as a stage where she must play a set part, but as a living space where she can touch others, bond, and shine. In this process, she finds a deep truth. Her trip of healing does not stop with her, but becomes a door for others to walk through. This is when the changing power of female connection starts to show itself, as strong as the roots of an old tree deep under the dirt. Jung claimed that no person lives alone. Every person is a lively part of a shared mental web. This is very true for women who are deeply linked not just by family or habits, but by a shared memory passed down through many years. When one woman wakes up, she does not just change her own life. She starts to heal what was given to her by her mother, her grandmother, and the dreams that never came true for the women who lived before her. One woman shared that she grew up in a home where 3 levels of women stayed quiet and suffered, each one too scared to leave a sad marriage. She was the first to pick a different path. At first, she felt like she was turning her back on her history. But when she looked into her daughter's eyes, she saw that the choice was not just for her, but for her daughter and for all the girls who would come after. She had broken a loop, and in that pain, there was a sense of being free. Women do not only suffer in quiet, they also watch each other in quiet. The way you walk, the way you say no, and the way you refuse to play a part are all signs to other women who are watching but not yet brave enough to move. You do not need to speak to make a mark. Your real self is a quiet invite that tells others they can be themselves too. Jung believed that when a deep pattern wakes up in one person's mind, it can start a change in the people around them. The image of the free woman, one who lives without fear, who is not ashamed of her feelings, and who does not wait to be saved, is a type of power that spreads like a hidden fire in a woods. It does not need to be shown off, it is felt. Have you ever seen the look of a woman who has just come out of her own dark times? It is not the look of a winner, but of someone who made it through. It is deep, steady, and no longer easy to shake. That look carries a silent message that she made it through and you can too. And so just by being who she is, she becomes a guard of the light for the trips of other women. The group of awakened women is not like normal friendships. It is not built on small fights, fake perfection, or talk that means nothing. It is a holy space where masks can be dropped, where tears are not seen as a sign of being weak, and where the truth can be spoken without being afraid of what others think. In that space, women do not heal each other with tips or advice, but by being there, by listening without stopping them, and with hugs that need no reason. One woman wrote that she met a group of women where she did not have to prove anything. For the first time, she laughed without feeling she had to protect herself, shared her mistakes without shame, and just like that, she started to believe she had the right to be herself. This is the echo effect that Jung talked about, that each person is not an island but a link in a deep spiritual chain. A woman's soul does not live for her alone but for those around her. And the wonder is this: when you live as your real self, you do not need to hunt for the right people. You become a source of energy, and those on the same level will find you. Linking with others starts with energy, not hard work. You stop holding on to relationships that are only half there. You stop putting up with talks that make you feel small. You learn that silence is worth more than 1,000 words that are not true. From that point, you start to choose again, not by rules, but by your gut feeling. Real connection does not make you feel smaller. It makes you grow in your own eyes. You see that you do not need anyone else to feel whole. But when you stand next to other women on their paths, you are no longer just I. You become we. A group of people who are not perfect but are real. A web of those who dare to let go, to start over, and to shine without asking for okay. And here is the last truth. When a woman becomes free from the inside, she not only breaks her own chains, but makes people question the very jail that made others bow down. She makes people feel uneasy and even causes some to fight her. But she also makes others stop and think, because she is living proof of a chance they had not dared to believe in, that you can live as yourself and still be loved, still stand strong, and still be free. Imagine a small seed sitting still under the dirt during the winter. No one sees it. No one praises it. It has no flowers, no leaves, and no one claps for it. But in that dark and cold place, something happens quietly. Inside, it starts to crack its shell, not to rush up to the sky, but to break open into its own self. A woman on the trip back to her true spirit is like that seed. Each time she is honest with a part of herself she once left behind, another layer of dirt splits open. Each time she dares to say that this is who she is without saying sorry, a root goes deeper into her being. Being whole does not come from the light that is far away, but from the bravery to stand still in the dark without turning away from yourself. And that quiet, the quiet of a woman who has stopped trying to be someone else, is the strongest voice of all. So, if you are in a time where no one gets what you are doing, if you see everything you know falling apart while the new life has not yet grown, do not be afraid. This is not the end. It is the first crack in the seed, and a seed only breaks its shell when it is ready to live. In the end, this trip does not promise an easy life, but it promises something much deeper, that you will no longer have to leave yourself behind just to exist. You will live fully as your real self and with freedom. Thank you for staying with me to the end of this video on this trip of waking up. If what I have shared feels true to you, please join the channel and turn on the alerts today. You never know when the next video might reach you at the perfect time.